Welcome to another show of Transmutations. I'm your host, Stone Hobbit, and we are live on People for People Radio. You can find us at peopleforpeople.ning.com. Great bunch of minds, lots of different ideas, and no judgment. So today, basically covering how our brain starts to deteriorate, change, open up new areas that have to open up, how we operate. We operate on the bombarded, use switch the radio on. Is that better? Can you hear me? All right. All right. Lost my flow. I'll pick it up again. Okay, the brain. In the work that I've been doing, I've been watching and doing my own little bits of experiments here and there on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And everything that I'm doing seems to keep coming back to frequency, how we operate, what we produce frequency-wise, what we take in and what we choose to listen to. We know that on different levels of our multi-dimensional being, we operate in different levels of frequencies. So looking at the warfare and everything around me at the moment, I'm basically focused as an energy device now. I'm seeing the energies that are coming in. I'm seeing how they are absorbing information from you through different forms of energy. You know, there was one stage there where we knew that there were parasites feeding off us, hooking into us, being able to control us as some form of host and directing us. Well, now for me, it's gone to another level where I'm seeing the energy and the information in the energy. So how they've plugged themselves into us and have been absorbing the information that we have been collecting and producing and going through all the different stages to be able to analyze that information and store it away in our minds. So in saying that, welcome to another show of Transmutation, and yeah, it should be a good one. I've been playing in my, what I call the Book of Shadows. And the message that I got was quite interesting, actually, with all the stuff that's going on in our environment at the moment, with the fake wars and fake shootings, and create a problem, bring in the solution. This is what I'm seeing, and it's now since the Christchurch shooting, the energy around the planet has amped up. I'm seeing a lot more military movement. I'm seeing a lot more armoured police officers in local towns standing around with their guns, posing that threat, that intent of threat, putting people into false sense of securities, making them believe that they are safe, not realising that that could be turned against them at any minute. How many people out there are prepared for this? I'm watching the older generations and my generations looking at this and seeing that there's two sides to this that's going on, and it's a fearful stage that's happening. The presence is, you see it on the internet, you see it on the news, it's everywhere around you. We're bombarded with the information. When you walk down the street and somebody walks close enough to you, now you might have stayed away from all the garbage that's out there right now, but just by walking in close proximity to somebody else, you've just picked up, or you've just transmuted from them that information that they have had their involvement in. So if they've sat down and watched the news reports that you've purposely avoided, now you have some inkling. It's like now you get a little taste of the sugar and you're drawn to finding out a bit more. So now you're fighting that bit of information to stop yourself from doing it. The more that information comes in, you find it, you're starting to get angry, you're starting to get aggressive, you're starting to get loud and vocal about what's happening in your surroundings. Then you take yourself to the next stage where you participate and you start watching the information coming in. You start analysing it for yourself, and you go through all those other earlier stages yet again. Now that you are aware of what's going on out there, how do you step forward? Do you participate further? Do you, recline? Do you go backwards and, okay, you've got enough information, you don't wish to participate at this time? One thing through the journeys, I have so many times wanted to step forward and share my stories, the journey that I've gone through, because I haven't heard anybody speak out on the depths and the levels of the abuse that goes on and where it actually goes from there. But each time I have held back just that little bit extra, somebody else has come forward. They've come forward and they've shared their version of their journey, which allows us to, take in a bit more information, take in a bit more time, be able to confirm with yourself that the journey that you've taken has been the way that it has been. I've had to research locations, because when I've gone back as an adult, that location is no longer on the map. The names of the townships and the people have been changed. That no longer exists. So going back and saying that I lived at such and such, and when they cannot find it in that location, it's you who looks like you're the crazy one, because that's where you remember living. Did it exist? Didn't exist. But you have to go a little bit further and find out, do a bit more work, until you prove to yourself, see, that town did exist. It was there in that location, and there were X amount of witnesses to it. Now they'll all be going through the same thing, unless they're still working in those environments with those people covering and condoning. I'm actually talking about, at this point in time, a mining company that went all over Australia, with the illusion that they were digging and moving for this purpose, only to find out they're digging and moving and creating for another purpose. We don't know this stuff until we're, a lot older, and we start linking these bits and pieces back together. If you don't go back and look at your past, you're not going to be able to see your future as clear as you can do. So anyway, I'm going to get back on track here. The passage that came to me today, when I asked a couple of questions about all the massacres and the fake, the red flags and everything that's out there, I got, who do you suspect? Who do you suspect is behind this whole thing? And then the next one was, it doesn't matter if you don't yet see it. The web is very complex. He touches a strand here for movement over there. So like on a spider web, you flick it and it moves, it ripples right across. The whole web is affected by one small movement. The murder was done by his writing agent, so somebody else put the task out there. When I think of what was done in order to shift power amongst those who have no knowledge of what is yet to be, That is the scary part. That is the scary part. When they turn around and you are starting to see more and clearer as it unveils itself. Everything is being revealed, okay? Revealed. So now is when we turn around and we go, hey, wait a minute, that's not sitting right for us. I want a bit more information than what you're putting out there for me. I want to see what's going on. There has to be more angles to this. If this is how you operate and you solve the case, well, you're leaving a whole lot of information out there. So it's not true what you're doing. Your investigation is not a true investigation. You need to ask these questions. You need to continue asking, because if you only ask one or two questions, you can't. If you're going to be satisfied with one or two answers to a problem, well, then that's where you're going to stay. You're going to stay in that rhythm. You're going to stay in that frequency. And this is what you're going to keep getting. They're going to keep giving you that little bit of information because you've not shown that you want to move past that barrier. As we're getting older, there are different chemicals going on in our brains which are changing. We can't feed them the way that we used to be able to feed them because they have manipulated right across the board. Every single avenue they have manipulated. Our food, our water, our air, our sleeping time, the programs that they bring into our households. Somebody asked me the other day, I did a really good show with Mark Steele on 5G. Now, if you've listened to my shows, you'll know that I believe it goes a lot further than 5G. And then when Trump came out and started teasing that there's 6G and maybe more, then that got me looking into the stuff that I'd put on the side, in the past. So where I'm going to go with this is going to be really off-planet, but I really don't care anymore because you'll start seeing your own links and your own information will come in when it's meant to come in for you. Now, I might be totally crazy, but this is what's working for me at the moment. This is what's getting me through all the other rubbish that's going on around me. Now, knowing that for me, I'm a warrior. I've gone through all of these different levels and different stages. So now I'm my own personal experiment. So here I am. I know what I'm capable of doing. I know my good skills and I know my weaknesses. So when my weaknesses start to show themselves, I have to use my strengths to get in there and support myself into bringing myself up a little bit more. So once I'm up there, then I can turn around and say, okay, now I need to use this bit of information over here to balance the side of me that doesn't want to face it, doesn't want to actually deal with what that darkness is. So here I am. All my life I've had encounters with different types of entities, from solid form to mystical form, etc., etc. I've had interdimensional beings stepping through other dimensions. I've seen shock on some of these dimensional beings when their spaces have been invaded. So it shows that there's a rarity of that actually taking place, but it does take place, just as it does here on this level, this dimension. There are beings out there that cannot access the dimensions that we can access without using us to get there, to get through there. We are a conduit. There are so many different levels and layers to us. We are not just a meat envelope. We are a complex system of information. We have so many different entities going on within us and information flowing through us 24/7. How we analyze it, how we have to choose. You look at out there, they've got fairy tales and they've got different strategy games and different quiz games. There, you are drawn to those areas where you best work in, or if you are able to identify that you need to build those areas up in, you will go and focus on those areas. As the chemicals and changes go on in our minds, and inside our brain, as we age, we find that we either speed up or we push ourselves just that little bit further to get that done. We don't want people around us to know that there is something changing within us. We feel embarrassed in some stages because who do you turn to? The programming out there has been designed to put you and keep you in a stuck state so that you don't step forward and talk about the ugly things or the dirty things or the areas that there are no teachers out there willing to teach you. You have to find out the bad way. You know, if you don't step up to the plate and ask the questions, you're not going to move forward. You're going to keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. But in saying that, we've done this. This is just on another scale on the outside of us. We keep repeating these patterns. We keep making these connections and coming back, trying to improve ourselves in the now so that in the future we can be better prepared. But as we're saying this to ourselves, they already know we're saying this. They are already prepared on another level. So we have to up our own game. We have to see what's going on. You have to become your own detective. You have to investigate your own journey that you are taking. Now, yes, there's a lot of distractions around you. And these distractions, these have been manipulated through the different governments. Now, I was never one for following politics, but I take a step back now and I'm watching what's happening here in New Zealand and how, you know, if I speak out and say what truly is on my mind, I'm endangering myself in being taken to prison because they've taken away the rights of freedom of speech. They turned around and they gave the option. All right, they handed out the candy. They wanted to see how many people would buy into the situation. There's been an energy contract that has just taken place here, and people are not aware of what they have just done. You've got all the other little fractions that are fighting left, right, and centre over water, 1080 poisoning, the crisis of housing, the homeless, you know, right across the board. They are fighting and making all these little distractions when all of these issues can be solved pretty, you know, minimally. But no, you know, we know that we are collateral, we are capital, we are, you know, we are the cattle. I look at all the different technologies that they've got out there, and with knowing our frequency signatures, they could push the button any time and take us out. This is not fear-mongering, hate speech, or anything of the sort. These are my findings from where I've come from. Now with the 5G plus, 5G for me was basically the first few levels of affecting the different senses and frequency-wise through our system. So when they played one frequency, it would affect a certain frequency signature being, DNA-wise, right? Then it went up the levels. Now, as we, in our DNA programming, have the memories of many different, both incarnations as species and beings, but also as in what we interact in and what we ingest in. So if you spend your lifetime eating one particular plant with one particular type of information and the DNA, and this device, this D technologies turns around and hits that frequency is damaged. That information within you has been damaged. All right, you may not notice it. It may take several hits. Now, how many times have you heard the frequencies come in and hit you? A high pierce to a low, everything's gone silent, you can't hear anything living, you can't hear the insects, you can't hear the frequency, everything is just gone to a hum. You're inside a box and you can hear the hum. You know it's out there and you know it's only going to take seconds before it comes back on. I know you know what I'm talking about. You've heard the frequency pitches. You've seen the different reactions on your body. Now, with myself, I went through a stage where looking at different colours. One side of my body, my auric fields were slightly different to the auric field on my left-hand side. So I started looking into in the now issues and the areas of my physicality that issue would transmute to. So it would sit in a certain location, either in my arm, along my chest, and my leg, my hip, my knee, my foot, my toe, a different type of skin reaction to the same sort of information on the other side. So the right hand became the right now, the left hand became the past. So I got a lot of information coming in. Whenever I had to deal with one thing, it would have a ripple effect on the other thing. So I could see how this was functioning, and by doing so, I started to balance myself. I started to see that when something was really, really crazy around me, I had to take myself out of it, reanalyze it, re-breathe. My breathing technique is take a breath, count to 10, hold it in, release it to the count of 10, where you're totally empty, and start again. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold for 10, then release for 10. And this seemed to work for me. Then I was able to step back into that craziness and go, okay, I can see this slightly different to what I saw it before. So now my reaction is going to be different to what it was going to be, because I was under the illusion of the distraction that was taking place around me. I was not being able to sense who was controlling my environment or what was going on. Did I need to actually participate and change this? Do I need to just let others around me step up to the mark and change it for themselves? It is really hard work to watch someone that you care for, and you have to step back and let them go through it themselves. And sometimes this takes years, and it is like this huge punch to the stomach, and you can't do anything about it. You don't want to influence the situation. You do your best not to involve yourself in the situation. You always start turning around and you reverse yourself so that you're there just as that support. We do this all the time without even realizing that we're doing it. We are support energy forces out there. We take care of ourselves. Now I'm just going to jump off topic a little bit. The other day I was going through material on PBM. I'll get to that shortly. And basically I came across a Star Trek episode, and I don't watch Star Trek. I don't watch that sort of thing. I did in my earlier days, in my younger days, but I had a reality check one time. When watching it, I was able to predict the next line that was going to be said, which ruined it for me for life. So anyway, this episode popped up, and for those who know me, I had an early encounter with a light energy being that came through as a fireball. It appeared like a fireball through the roof. I was sitting awake and I had my bedroom light on, so there was no deception here. It was real. It came through into the room, and it morphed into a solid figure, and then it split into two figures, like a masculine and a feminine energy. They then morphed back into one, and proceeded on with the experience. Now, the other day, I found this episode, and I was drawn to watching it. It only goes for like 4 minutes, and I was drawn to watch it. They were talking to this being who knew that he was no longer the bad being and became a light being, and then left the scene, turned into an actual generated light being, and then left the scene in a fire plasma ball through and out of the vessel. Now I was a little bit in shock. It took me back, because I've been looking for other people with the similar experiences. I've reached out over years since I had this experience to different organisations claiming they were there to help us with these experiences. Now I got so much more help by watching this 4 minutes of seeing this experience that took place. Now the year of this episode was apparently 1990. Now I definitely know I was not watching anything of the sort back in that time. But my experience was about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was a lot more intense than what I saw in the program. But what I was getting to was, I'm always looking to find out where the information is coming from and break it down. Where do they get the information? They are planting certain information and certain programs into our minds to see when we're going to wake up to that information, how long it takes us to wake up to that information. So now going back to the people, our brains, how our brains work. Now we need certain chemicals within our brain for it to function. If you've damaged your arm, you've broken a hand, finger, whatever in your time, and you've gone out there and it's hurt and you've had to wait through the process and you've had to keep working at it to make it come back to its full original capacity. The brain is the same. We have not learned how to feed it properly. We have not learned how to treat it properly. Give it the right nourishment. Activate the right areas. The areas are there, but we have been stagnating. We've been put into different programmings so that we're not able to access these areas of our brain. When I was younger, part of the programming I was told was, you're never going to amount to anything. Don't bother in even trying. When you get to a certain age, your brain's going to slow down so fast that there's no point in even existing. Now, that was 40, 45. Now, I promised myself that I was not going to become what they had told me that I was going to become or what was going to happen. I fought it. And as much as all the different systems and all the different players have tried to push me in those directions, for some reason I have never gone back to those directions. I can see it. I know I could go in there. I know I could do this, that, and live the way, others deem comfortable. I'm comfortable. I know what I like. I know how I feel. I like to be in touch with myself. I like to listen to the plants, know when the water has been changed. As soon as I turn that tap on, I'm able to smell different toxins that are being flushed through our system. Not always. I'm not always onto it. Sometimes I'm on another area of distraction, and I will forget to be on the ball. It happens to all of us. Now, there's these other things like, how many of you guys have put down the keys or something and for me, I went through a stage where it was like I had brain fog. There would be a high pitch, then there'd be a brain fog. There were a lot of UFO activity around us, a lot of nighttime activity going on where people were putting up cell towers and this sort of thing, changing smart meters over, people getting sick in the location. A lot of things were happening at the time. They were building walls around us, concrete walls were going up around us, new bridges, new waterways, this sort of thing, changing the current flow, changing the different energies out there. When I'm now down here, when I left the city, I was able to see and feel and experience the different frequency changes from the cell towers. Getting out of the city, it became the ringing and the tones inside my head, the twitches and the areas. I really seriously felt like I had a brain tumor going on inside my head, and I was too scared to talk to anybody about it because I didn't want to be manipulated. I didn't want someone to turn around and say, yeah, that's what you've got, you're going to die. Now, one of my patients, she had to have a brain scan, and she was found to have had a tumor in her brain for 40 years. And she to her dying day did not know, and nobody informed her that that's what was sitting there. But she had it there. She would have gone through knowing that there were feelings and reactions going on because of the size of it inside her head. But she still functioned normally like everybody else did. There, I didn't see too many strangenesses. She was quite an intelligent person. So going through this, coming out of that frequency, watching how my skin reacted, there was no more dermatitis. It was like little burn patches on me, but it was like dermatitis all over me. And I was a vegan. I didn't eat the meats and the dairy, so I should not have had those chemical reactions happening to me. But if my body has a certain amount of memory stored in these fat areas, then it's still going to be able to be reactive to the frequencies that are targeting that particular signature of chemical. I'm hoping you're still following me here. So when we're carrying different information, different chemicals, they know how to manipulate the chemicals that are in our body through the frequency. Now, dealing with the patients and clients that I have, it's always, I work a lot in the fields of different labels of mental health, as well as dementia and Parkinson's and age concern, watching how the body changes and reacts over time, as well as watching how they react with the frequencies. When an Alzheimer patient sits near music, it uplifts them. They start producing the chemicals in their brain that they don't have the magnitude of. They don't have the amount for regular use like we do at the moment. So when we start seeing that our bodies are changing, we have to find a way to up the chemical that we have used so much of, if you understand. So we're seeing in mice, through the Parkinson's work that I'm doing, we're seeing in mice they're able to slice away certain proteins from the brain, allowing them to come back out of Parkinson's, stop shaking and this sort of thing. We're seeing that it also works with Alzheimer's. We're seeing that with Parkinson's they're using bucket hats. They're calling lead light bucket hats. There's a woman in Tasmania. She wears a Tasmanian red light helmet, treatment for Parkinson's disease symptoms. They're doing clinical trials. They get put on for X amount of time a day, and they have certain amount of pulsing going on. Now, I'm not sure at this point. I'm still working on the areas of it, what effects it will have on the optical information going into the brain. But at this point, I'm seeing that the frequency, it's the frequency coming from the pulsing that is activating the different areas of the brain. We're not feeding it what we used to feed it, so we need to stimulate it. Now, I need to look at the lead lights because I'm still dubious about whether they're safe or whether they're not safe. I know that, with all the technologies they have out there, they have a positive and negative reaction. It just depends on how they're used. So, and it's, in saying that, there's also, we get a new technology, there's not enough research done behind it for the long-term effects of how it is going to affect us. So we come up with these new ideas. They have short-term solutions, but in some cases they bring on further long-term problems. Now I'm a little bit concerned about the lead lights and the pulsating to the brain, but if it works, if it gets them to a certain stage where they can function with some normality, I'm a strong believer that it is frequency, but it comes from what we put into our bodies, how we treat ourselves. Excuse me. So if you don't dance, I suggest that you get up there and feel the way your physical body reacts. feel what you haven't moved in such a long time. But you were a bird once. Try the movements. Concentrate on feeling that entirety of that creature soaring through the sky. But you've got to feel all the sensations of what that animal feels like in the first place before you start trying to fly, before you start gliding. So when we're looking at these different ailments, we need a certain type of food to keep our brain active, to keep the neurons firing, to keep the passages up there clear so that the neurons can fire. We have to change our intake of the foods because our bodies don't operate the same way they used to. If you have bombarded yourself, your ingestion with certain type of food for a long enough period of time, you're going to build up some sort of chemical reaction or some reaction inside that area. Some people are suffering from leaky gut syndrome. Now that's a weakness inside your intestines. What is the product that you're putting in there that is eating away, that is either growing and eating away like a virus to create that? What do you need to do? You need to identify what it is that you are eating, change the foods, because it's not just the stomach ache that you'll have a reaction to. The body has a way of flushing it through the system. It has a way of, you can smell it in your system. You can smell it on your skin. At one stage I used to use deodorants. Then I realized, I don't need to use deodorants. We're not meant to do this. In my younger days I was told that if you're going to wash your hair with shampoo or conditioner, you only use the size of a 50-cent coin. I don't know what it is in your countries. A small space inside the palm of your hand to do all of your hair. Now, I had long hair at the time. And now where I'm at, watching the change of the water, the different strengths as the shampoo has had to get stronger and stronger to still give us that effect that we used to have, that feeling state that our hair was healthy back then. Not being able to identify when the water changed because our hair felt a certain way. If you go outside and wash your hair in clean rainwater, you'll feel the instant difference, and the smaller amount of shampoo or soap or whatever it is that you use to clean your hair with, it will be a lot different. It will be, the soapiness will be way more on a smaller amount than it would if you washed yourself in the shower because of the chemicals that they have put into our water. Now, when your skin gets to a certain temperature, it opens up your pores. When your pores on your epidermis have opened up, you start taking in. Now, used to take in oxygen. We used to feed from the water. We used to take in the information. Now we take in the chemicals and the nanoparticles. They get stored inside us. They get delivered in different places. We break out in different skin reactions. I know people that are not around animals, yet are having animal-based skin reactions like flea bites and ringworm and this sort of thing, little pustules, and all they're doing is showering. Okay, they're just taking their regular shower of hot water. We all like the feeling and sensation of the hot water tingling our skin. Some of us like to go to the extremes and see how far we can push it. But in doing that, just be aware that your hot water is coming through a hot water cylinder that has been boiling and boiling and boiling these different forms of chemicals for however long that hot water cylinder has been there. There will be a build-up of chemicals activated within these tanks. They say that a regular tank should be changed every 10 years. I don't believe that I know anybody who's changed their hot water tanks when they were meant to. because it was not cost effective to change it every time. The copper pipes will put out a chemical reaction. We're drinking this water. We are absorbing it. We are absorbing all the different chemicals into our system. Then we go down to what we are washing our clothing in, what we are washing our bodies in. Can you actually tell me that you know without picking up a bottle what it is that you wash yourself in or are putting on your skin each day? We're seeing that people are having reactions to clothing. I've always had reactions to clothing. Can't help it. But I know what I can wear and what I can't wear. And synthetics, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I get hot. I get extremely hot fast. My body is not able to breathe. It feels like it is inside a plastic bag because it cannot breathe. So I have to change my clothing type, my fabric type. But I also have to make sure I stay a certain temperature. As a young child, and because of my previous life, I suffer from pneumonia. Or I should say that, I should actually change that, I suffered from. These days, sleeping with the windows open, I wanted to ask myself over and over again, why do I sleep with the windows open when I have all these different other forms of anxieties which actually have proper, safety meaning to them? So I analysed myself and I came down to the fact that I was sleeping with the windows open because the temperature around us is changing dramatically. It is getting colder at nights and earlier, and it's a different type of cold. It's drawing the oxygen right out of the air, which sucks your heat at the same time, and a breeze just cuts you to the bone. It just cuts straight through you to the bone. So I know that in one of my weaker areas, and as younger days, was suffering from the elements, hay fever, asthma, different allergic reactions to dust. Oh my God, it was insane. Anyway, now I sleep with the window open. I don't have the same problems that I used to have. I'm more active than I've ever been. So I'm making sure that I prove all those people wrong. I'm seeing, earlier the signs of what's happening in my physicality so that I can listen properly, or as much as I can until I get to the next stage, to know what my body needs. Now, going through these lead lights, they flick out a certain frequency, and I'm very much about frequency. When I have gone into my different states, different dimensional accessing, I've been always taken note of my environment beforehand. What was my mood? What was it that I ate? What is the temperature? How many blankets have I got on my bed? Where are the cats in my room? This sort of thing. Making sure, I've gone through every single thing that I could to eliminate or to pass it on that it is a reasoning for something else. But over all of the experiences and my findings, it comes down to, no, this is happening to me. It's not just happening to me, but it's happening to other members of my bloodline. But it also happens to people outside of my connections that I don't know that I'm actually getting in communication with. I have a couple of other people I'm in communication with, and we're sharing our experiences on the different areas of how we access these different dimensions. We started off, it was night terrors. In the medical or psychological books and journals, you'll find that night terrors come from a form of trauma-based experience. Now, these trauma-based experiences can be as subtle as, sorry, I just got somebody tooted at the driveway. These trauma-based programmings can come from pretty much sitting down and watching something on TV and you get a fright from, and you can't deal with it. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't know why you reacted the way that you reacted to it. What was the programming that triggered you, behind it? So there are all these different factors that come into play. So we start analysing what it was that we were doing during the day, our environment, the frequencies around our environment, and then we seem to go in. For me, I know 2 hours. I will see the signs earlier now, but I know for sure that I'm going to have an experience 2 hours before I have it. I've gotten to the stage where I can now access without somebody else trying to access it. It's like when it comes down to, okay, I get the feeling I'm going to be having a night terror at such and such a night, like tonight I'm having a night terror. Then I do everything in my possibility. I set my phone up, I set my camera up, I warn people around me, because I've had experiences where my terrors have been so violent and so loud that the neighbours came over to investigate. Now that's pretty bloody embarrassing. But this is a real thing. This is real for me. So I look at all of those areas that they're doing the same thing. They're looking at all the same similar areas. They're looking at their family bloodlines to see how much of them have been manipulated and how and why. If and what the connections are. Now, I met a woman a couple of days ago, and I met another woman, spoke to her the other day, and the issues are pretty much the same. The information from our past is coming back. We know that we have a huge fight on our hands. We know that they're pulling us in different directions, trying to keep us in stuck states. And it's very hard. We are tearing ourselves apart from the inside to disconnect from what they are creating, what they are putting out there. We have to disconnect in some areas, and it is very hard, so that we can move forward, so that we can be there to help these people when they turn around and they are ready to be helped. You cannot help someone who is not ready to be helped, and you can hear it. You have to allow people to be able to talk, to get their stuff out. You give them a certain amount of time so that you're not bombarded with their information. Once this happens, they will start slowing down. The chaos around them, the drama around them will start slowing down, because they can recognize it. They can recognize their involvement in it. Hello, you. So it starts to slow down. Then they will come back and you can have a communication with them. Then they can turn around and they tell you what they had as their experiences through this process. You share your experiences of what you saw, so they can also go through it, so you can also work at it. These are, for me, I have had to look at people reading the skills, the movements, the body languages, the endorphins, the smells, the sensations that I pick up when I'm interacting with other people. Now, in the earlier days, I used to do some readings across the internet. I used to do a lot of stuff through the internet. Now, in doing that, I had to take myself from one level, because I prefer to work face-to-face, right in the presence of the other person. I like to know the truth behind the other person. So I wasn't sure that I would be able to do it via the internet. Now these days, since we have Skype, we have camera programs and this sort of thing, I'm able to go back and be able to see that. But I can also pick up on the interfering waves that are coming through, the information that comes in, how we get knocked off when we're trying to, it happens to me all the time if you haven't figured it out by now. I can be on a flow getting there, and then all of a sudden these distractions around me will come in, and it won't be just one, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, trying to get me off a topic, off a subject that I know that I needed to go into. Now, I know I'm not the only one out there that experiences this. This is just one of the frequencies that they hit us with on a regular occasion. Anyway, okay, these these helmets that they are using, where did I have it? I had something written down I was going to read. Anyway, these lead lights have this. There's an elderly lady who's been trying it. She's had Parkinson's disease for 11 years, and she began her own light treatment. She used to sit with the lights flickering, then she built this hat. Then she got a friend of hers who was also looking into the same technologies. Now, as a group of them, they are making these helmets for people who are suffering from the early stages of Parkinson's. When I was working in the early stages medical of Alzheimer's and dementia, one of the things they pointed out to us was 7 years before you can be properly diagnosed with either Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, you'll start noticing a telltale sign of when there's a crack on the ground or a shadow on the ground or a carpet, you've put a mat on top of a mat. These people will start having issues with stepping over this crack or over this shadow, right? It's one of the early telltale signs. So if you can identify the early signs of what's going on in your vessel, then you have a better chance of being able to identify what the vitamin or the mineral, the molecules that you need within your system to keep that area functioning. These are the signs that our body is running out of energy or has been taken over in that energy. Now, there are certain fats out there that we ingest, which are synthetic fats, which are not correct for our body, yet we can still use them, that turn around and they leach. Okay, they leach these minerals and these vitamins out of our body. Now, in saying that, we also have the different forms of nano particulates in our body that also stick to this information, stick to these different pockets, and they are activated. They can also break down the information. If you can imagine a rancid fat, you know what it smells like, you know how grainy and crystally it gets. These crystally bits are what forms from old fat cells, old stuff that's inside our brain. It begins to leach. It begins to cause pockets because it's not being changed, it's not being flushed. If you don't put oil in your engine, you're going to turn around and seize it. So you need to identify at the early stages the different areas that are slowly dying off in our brains, that are slowly dying off in these different organs that we have. We need to, focus more on the fact that we are not getting the right minerals and vitamins into our systems right now to be able to function. Now, this is part of the bigger picture. When we come back after the hour, I'm going to get a bit more into what I'm seeing with the alien agenda, if you want to call it an alien agenda. I don't actually call it an alien agenda now because I see us all as aliens of one form or another. We're made up of so many different cells. We're just nicknamed one species human, but there are so many different races of human here at this time, and they're getting ready to introduce another race of human. So this goes down to the 5G technologies. If I get past the body wellness at the moment, which are the first 5Gs, affecting our eyesight with the blue rays, affecting our eyesight with the frequencies that are coming through, changing our hearing. I mean, I bet you're seeing more people wearing glasses at the moment because they've changed the colour of blue. So we need to change the colour of blue again to that darker blue that we used to look at. Not the fluorescent blue, not the lead light blue. It's the same with the lights in your house. If you've got lead lights that have got mercury within them, then you're crazy. lithium, mercury, it all causes a way of energy sucking, frequency. It is pushing and pumping in these different chemicals into our brains. We have already got so many different chemicals in our brains that when our brain feels a certain frequency, that chemical reacts. When that chemical reacts, it's either going to speed up or slow down or destroy it altogether. So anyway, moving right along. Where was I? Okay, when we go into the 20G, this is when they turn all the towers on. And we have so many different nanoparticulates and particles within our system now, from the different manipulations from the food and the air and the water. It's in our system. That when they turn these frequencies on, we're going to react in one way or another, which is, sorry, somebody's calling out, which is like a frequency signature. They've turned around and gone, okay, this will activate with this frequency. These are going to be the symptoms of those reacting under this DNA, under this frequency. So then when they turn all of these towers and things on, and you start seeing the little domes starting to appear over these little townships, getting bigger and bigger, eventually when there is enough of these frequency fields generated, these domes over these areas, like a bubble, like bubbles, they're going to come together and create one bigger bubble. This bubble is going to go around the outside of this planet. There are beings outside of this planet right now watching what's coming in and watching what's going out. They're like policing the place. That's another subject. That's where my flasher friend comes from. That's one of the jobs that they're doing. They're watching something coming in or not meant to come in. But I've seen stuff still get past and come in. So with the dome, once the dome is around us, we're controlled. We will be controlled. You can see that they're upping the amount of street lights and street lamps, changing to the LED light frequency. The pulsings that they can pulse and send messages through. Now, I had a portrait on a wall. It was one of the plug-in ones, like a big photo frame one. It had a waterfall coming off it, and it had the sound of a waterfall. Now, the house that I'm particularly talking about had, excuse me, just had a smart meter put in, and there was a person in the house, and they were, getting elderly, and this portrait electric waterfall was on the wall. And when you watch it, you could see there was a pulsing coming from it. I watched this pulsing, and I watched the light in the lounge, and I could see that the pulse was the same as the pulse on this frame. So then I went out with the pulse going on in my mind, and I looked at the smart meter to see if it was the same frequency pulse that was going through. Then I stuck my head out the window, and I noticed that the light outside was also mimicking that pulse. When it came to just after midnight, everything sort of just all of a sudden just shut down. It was like a frequency that just shut down, and I felt it all around me. And I went outside to the meter box, and I noticed that the smart meter had stopped. The lights had stopped flashing. So this was their pickup time. This is when they were collecting the information. When I went outside and I looked at the street lamps, I could see the same thing was going on with the street lamps. Now, when I watch the street lamps are, they've got frequencies that are just being bombarded, which do not match the same as the smart meter. And yet I know that the dirty box devices that they've got connected to them can relay that information to and from the smart meter, creating this dome effect over the house and over the road. Also, in being aware that these devices have scanners in them, and are able, through the frequency scanners, able to scan everybody that is in the house, animal, whatever, animal, human, whatever is in that house, the living particles. I can also see that there is an increase in orb activity coming in, manifesting, more people being able to interact and capture them on whatever camera source they've got, from phones to otherwise. If you can start doing that in the daylight, then you'll see the difference between the particles, nanoparticles, the different portals, and the different actual living orbs that are coming into the rooms. We can see this through old caves and all sorts, through dust particles and so on. But anyway, I'm going to take a break here, so enjoy a little bit of music, and I will be back with the other half of Transmutations. Welcome back to the second hour of Transmutations. I'm your host, Stone Hobbit, and we are live on People for People Radio. You can find us at peopleforpeople.ning.com. All right, we've got lots of different things I'm going over, and I usually get off track like per normal, but this is just how we go. So, I've been talking about different forms of frequencies that are coming in, the nanomillimeters and different forms that are affecting us today. We are just trying to load my list, which has disappeared on me, but that's okay. So, one of the things I'm talking about at the moment is photobiomodulation devices. So they're putting these different forms, they're designing these different forms of hats and helmets and eyewear. Now, in some of the technologies they've got out there for gaming, the virtual reality masks that they're putting on, I don't know how anybody can actually turn around and get away with designing something like that for people to wear when it's going straight to the programming of, the programming behind the programming that is going straight to the brain through these devices. We are going to come up with there's going to be these new levels of brain fry-out. People are going to go blind. They're going to be blind to what's happening around them. Their brains are not going to function the way they are functioning now. We are at war, whether we like to admit it or not. We've had all of these. Okay, as a warrior, I come to a new planet. What do I see? I see absolutely fantastic, beautiful planet, and I could live like this. Then I see another category of being that's also come to this planet and manipulating every single corner that they can possibly do. But I know that I'm not much different to that other being, yet I choose a different path to that being. And I don't want that being to turn around and destroy what I can see, yet they need to destroy it to be able to survive in it. So do I come to a compromise, or do I turn around and try to show them that it's the wrong way? Do I take them out and send them back to their planet they came from? Or do I give them a small area that they can function in under their terms, or are they going to turn out to be like a cancer? Now, in saying that, I'm also human, and if I have to turn around and take part in this life that we call our existence, I'm already part of that cancer. I am like that virus. I have consumed, I've partaken, I have done all these different areas that I know that has been harmful in one aspect or another to the environment that I live on. Now, off air, I'm having a little chat with Gaz about the water. If you do have a water filter machine, you will see just after one or two, purifications, you will see that there is a build-up of either a brown, yellow, yucky muck, slime, to a white crystallized crustation, which can be broken off. These are the breakdown areas of the chemicals that we are pumping through our hot water cylinders, that we are feeding our systems with. If your body has X amount of nanoparticles or metallic objects or receiver-sender reactors, then when the frequency comes in, you're going to develop different areas of symptoms like cancers. How much of that do you have on the internal system? And if you're hit with that frequency, does that become a cancer? Yes, they do have the technology out there to be able to say, yes, we want that person over there to suffer from that. Now, as much as the stuff that we say today might sound far-fetched and we don't want to believe this is real out there, if you turn around and think about what you are physically capable of, what you are mentally capable of, and how far you can take your imagination, then you know that you are only at the tip of the iceberg. We have so many of these minds out there doing these different programs, learning these different abilities. We're not just, if you go and have an idea today, I can guarantee you in a couple of hours that idea will be all over the internet because others would have had that idea. Now, is it that others have had that idea, or has that been generated over a period of time through the quantum computers? I'm very careful with anything that starts with Q these days, because at the end of the day, what is a quantum computer? You are a quantum device. You are able to access areas if you see fit, if you choose to. But you've got to remember, it's a stage of elimination. We have to go, okay, yes, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I want to do and become. And you have to reprogram. You have to take out the rubbish and the baggage that other people have put there so that you have not been able to take that step forward and do these different areas, work in these different areas. So if you know that your water has a certain amount of chemicals in it, what do you do to actually protect your whole body from it? I used to be one of these people who loved a bath. I loved the bath. There was nothing wrong with it. I'm a fish out of water. But it got to the stage where I would prefer, it used to be, I don't want to go to the pools because it's a chemical bath. I don't want that. I don't want to go to the pools because I'm mixing myself with all those others that have gone into that water body. But it got to the stage where I needed to go for a swim because I have fish tendencies. I'm on an island. I've got water all around me. I'm drawn to the water. I'm a moon birth, so I'm born under the frequency of the current flow, okay, of the current flow. So I follow those patterns. Now, when your brain turns around and tells you that, oh, you can't have a shower because the amount of chemicals that you are taking in here are a lot more than what you'd be taking in by going for a swim at the local pools, then you've got to ask yourself, well, what can I do about the situation that I'm in, because I can't survive like this for long. It's one which is the evil of the two, which is the lesser of the two evils. So basically, then I started going out and having showers, just standing out in the rain and just letting it fall on me. I love it. I've always done it. But then I went through this other stage. The amount of chemtrails that have gone through the sky today at time, I go shake my washing, what's coming out of my washing, and then what am I wearing, how am I feeding myself, what are the elements coming out of the clouds. Now I've seen the clouds. I don't believe a cloud any longer is just a cloud made up of water, oxygen, so on and so on. I now see it as a living entity that can communicate. How many of you out there have thought of something and stepped out and seen it in a cloud just above your house or in your location, in your line of sight? Now, you could do these things. This is not mind power. This is a form of telepathy. You are connecting with another element out there that is able to communicate with you. But if you show that it's just, if you think that it's just, oh, that's a coincidence, and you don't keep practicing, you don't keep seeing this, you lose the sight of the experience that you had. It just comes down to that basic side experience, because you didn't go and experiment any further. Well, it's the same with our body. We have not been taught what our body is capable of doing, what it actually needs. You go to your local GP and tell them when you're sick. You don't go to a GP and say to them, what can I do to better this area, and then actually tell you what to do, because I've never seen a doctor actually break down all the different areas of who you are, what you are eating, your skin type, the different pollutions and chemicals that you're taking into your system already, and the adverse effects that it will be having on these different areas, and for that doctor to turn around and actually tell you where to increase or decrease certain levels in your body, chemical exchanges in your body. So when I'm now in the shower, I'm thinking, okay, I know what's coming through, so I want to be warm for a second. So I'll turn the shower on. But as soon as I turn it on to hot and I step in that warm because it feels good, I know that I've only got a couple of seconds before it starts taking effect on my body. So you get in the shower, you turn it on hot, you open up your pores, it takes in the chemicals, you turn it down to cold, boom, it shuts your skin down. You've now enclosed that chemical particle inside your skin. Now that chemical particle can react, it can be broken down and absorbed into your system and then collected into one particular area once inside your system. Then it can be activated by outside frequencies. It can be activated by different hormonal levels, different hormones, different balances, different chemical reactions going through your system. It can react in different ways of making you feel like something fierce is going on in your body and you've got cancer and you're riddled with it. So you go to the doctor, you've got all the symptoms. The doctor says, yes, you've got it. Well, how do you really know what you've got unless you've actually done the research yourself instead of just looking at the symptoms and taking the feeling state? You need to be able to listen to yourself, listen to your environment. You can't do it overnight if you haven't already been working in that field. You need to get out there, surround ourselves a bit more in plants that produce oxygen around us at night so that we have more control over our accessing and who is limited to access these different areas. Because when you're eating the foods that are putting you into a comatose state and you are being programmed by the television, computer or whatever frequencies that you are surrounded by, then you go to sleep, you get into your REM sleep, then you get accessed. You get accessed, you wake up more tired, you've got more aches and pains on your body, you've got bruising and marks that you can't account for. This stuff is happening now. People are starting to see more because they're coming out of that conscious state before they've actually left that dimension, and they're bringing back the information and seeing what else is happening around us in our 3D environment, our realm. You know, just because you can't see it in front of you does not mean it's not there. We have other senses on our body that will tell us when something is there in front of us. But if you're always so distracted, you've got your earphones plugged in, you're always on PC or on some radio emitting frequency devices, you've got to get hot. It's going to speed up your degeneration systems in your body. This slow poisoning. If they wanted to kill us off, they would kill us off in one go. So you have to ask yourself, why are they extending our lives? Why are they slowing us down, making us disabled in one physical or mental sense? It's all about control. Why do they want to keep us alive and control us? What is it that they want so badly from us? Now, here on the bigger scale, this is what I see. We know that there are clones and drones and DUMBs, deep underground military bases. We know that they've cloned sheep, they've played with humans, cloning humans. They're making skin suits. They say that they've got the technology to remove our consciousness and put us into another vessel. We've got companies out there, advertising that they can do this. They're saying that they can freeze our cells, they can freeze us completely in cryo chambers. This is real. All of the stuff we've seen in sci-fis, and we've got the technology. The if they're just rolling out 5G now, I can guarantee the 5G will go a lot further than the 5G limits. When they say to you, this is the new technology, microwaves, they've given you the microwave because they're already a few steps past the microwave. They've already got different forms. If they're telling you that you need to get a chip in your hand, a radio frequency device in your hand, you don't actually need to. It's actually gone a lot further than that. You've probably already been chipped and totally unaware of it. Different DNA family groups will react differently to different chemicals that are being pumped into our systems. So we will have a handful of people that will come out with appearances of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, Morgellons. There's all these different areas. You get a certain type of nano inside your system, which then starts breeding because you are around certain frequencies. There are no conditioners, soaps, chemicals out there that you can clean your skin because the itch and the burn is so intense, and it drives you crazy. It takes away every other aspect of your life is now over because you are concentrating always on that pain, how to relieve yourself of that pain. Now they're doing this with the mental side of it as well. They're upping the frequencies on those who have a chemical imbalance inside the brain. If we don't have a certain amount of dopamine, we're not happy. We can't, how do we train ourselves to constantly be happy if we don't have the right inspiration or the right foods? The body has the memory of all the different vitamins and minerals and frequencies that we need to operate at our optimum. But so do they. They out there have this information as well. It all comes under our frequency signature. They have this information so they can control these. Now, they will watch you. If you turn around and go, okay, I now am identifying that is going on in my system due to this and this as a reaction, I need to counteract it or I need to negate it on this level and this level. So then you start breaking it down. What is the compounds made up of? What are the molecules made up of? What is the process that's going on within my system and how can I reverse that? Now we know that they use blood cells because these blood cells have life. They have a living purpose. Each of these blood cells are a living entity, a replica of ourselves, the information that we want to feed this blood. This blood has, our DNA stamp on it, but it also has the DNA stamps of everything else that we've interacted with, plant-wise, earth-wise, water, chemical, what you touch. We're not just this 3D envelope being that walks from A to B interacting with C, D, and E, right? We are a multi-diverse being. We are receiving and sending messages, but we're also functioning within this, what I call my planet. My planet is what I'm a guardian of. My vessel, my body is my planet. And I've let others take care of it because they've told me that they know how to do it better. But nobody's ever actually come forth and said, well, this is how you do it better. This is what I can help you with in that area. Let's see if we can do it together. No, it has never been that way. There's always been some purpose behind it, and it's never gone the way that it was said that it was going to. It's always had adverse effects. So at the end of the day, there's only one person that can really help you, and that's yourself. You can have communication with others around you. You need to become aware of your environment, who you are, how you function, what you produce, how your organs work, everything about you. How long ago was it when you started wearing glasses? Do you have dentures? Why do you have false teeth? Why do you have false teeth? Where are the pains in your body? Can you hear? Are you losing your hearing? What about your taste? Is it the same? Has it changed? Is there something that you're doing that is eliminating that taste? I mean, everything about our body has a frequency that it puts off. Some people can read the frequencies straight away. You step into an area, and on a good day, if I look at you, I can turn around and say to you, well, you should be increasing that. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not that forward. I can be, but I'm not. So it's a matter of getting to know who you are, how you function mentally and physically, what the impacts are of others in your area on you, and what you're willing to take on, what you're willing to put out there, and how you're going to operate. Now, if I turn around and say to you that we're going to have this dome over the top of us, it's already been predicted, it's already been created, they've already done it in the past, there's enough junk out there in space to approve it. They've got the weapons, they've got the laser weaponry. What are they preparing us for? Why are they putting this dome that's going to have such adverse effects on our physicality? Now we've got the dumbs. Now each of the different frequencies that affect and take out a certain frequency signature group, class group, that soul of that being is going to be caught in the net. There's going to be a few of us wandering around because once that net is fully up, we know we're not want to be coming back down. Now I've had these different visions, and I've gone to these different dimensions where I've been able to see what the people popping was all about. That was the nickname that I gave it because it was reoccurring. It didn't matter how they showed me in the scenario, the outcome was always the same. They were popping the light force energy out of us through our tops of our crowns, and we would go straight up. We wouldn't be light form. We would take on the different creature being physicality, but in a light energy form. We'd be taken up onto this ship. It was like a conveyor belt. There were other beings there, and we were being graded into different energy groups, put into different huge containers. And these containers, it was just full of these beings that, we compressed ourselves back into the little light energy beings because there was no room for us to be the actual physicality or impression of what we had just, been incarnated as. And I was able to escape this and take a couple of others with me. And I was able to see the changes in the others. They all collapsed to the ground around me. When the souls weren't put back into the body in the right time, the body would collapse as if it had just fallen asleep or just dropped to the ground. But then it would stand back up. And when it stood back up, these were like walk-ins, like a walk-in cell that had come in, that had attached itself. People were stumbling and coughing and carrying on like this, rubbing their eyes. Now, these were the symptoms of these new cells readjusting to the physical. And on that side, moving back to the other side, when I'm seeing this dome over the top of us, and they are collecting the cells or the souls that they're wanting to put into the different species. They put and let's say animal, insect categories first into one particular type of clone or alien, whatever you want to call it, synthetic alien that they've produced, clone. That then comes out and you interact with it. But because of the build-up of information, because of the laser technology that they have out there, and all of the other information they've got out there, they can make that creature seem to be the bad creature. And you will go and you will defend yourself against this being. Now, this being is still trying to learn the functions of the vessel, so it is only going by the program of the vessel and the information that it has just received to actually protect itself when it comes up and it meets you. There is nothing else inside that shell. I see this. I'm seeing this in people around me now, going through these different stages. And it's, to me, I'm like, how many people in our environments now are actually real human beings or are manipulated beings, you know, in our environment? So I'm looking at all, I mean, it sounds really crazy, it really sounds far-fetched, but I have to say I've seen stuff that there is no logical explanation for. I'm not alone in what I have seen. And that's the lucky part. I've always had other people with me that they've been able to see strangeness around me. So they're keeping us alive. The ones they don't want, or when they want them, they introduce the demise pill and take what they want. We already know that the physical body is not ours even after death. It is owned by another corporation. It is a corporation. It is a deceased estate, but it is still an estate, okay? It is in a state, okay? Deceased estate. So it is still an estate, a body, a function, a location. So they're still able to get the information. You go to a cemetery and on all the gravestones and plaques, it's in capitals. It is owned by whoever is farming us. Well, it's been a really way out show, isn't it, so far? All right, carrying right on. So then you have the different stages of politics. They have their little codes that they play amongst themselves. The women don't usually wear the ties, but they will wear a dress with that colour, i.e. President Trump wearing a red tie, Palestinian president wearing a red tie, New Zealand president wearing a red dress with the Chinese president or delegate, whatever he is, wearing a red tie. So you start seeing how these little groups of politicians are actually working together. They're not working, you know, one against one. They're working together. It's a team. It's a game of risk. Who can they farm? What are they farming? Who's going to have what over here? Sorry, I'm being distracted just at the moment. So when it comes down to politics, I'm seeing a really big movement in the gun and the TPPA, which they've changed the name of. Basically, it's contracts within other countries for free trade. Most countries had a flag. The flag was to represent the trading nations. So you can see who's trading what. Our flag is not being used in these trading contracts. We can see this happening. This is going to come out into the market even more. A couple of years ago, they changed all money in a lot of different countries, and it doesn't take much to look, and you see the similarity between the materials used, the plastic notes with the see-through little riser thingy with their imprint. New type of coating has been put onto it. Then you look at the colour of the notes, how much they are similar to the colours of the notes of the other countries. Yes, sorry, I'm being interrupted here. So anyway, going back to it, we are fighting different forms of radiation at the moment. We've got the radiation in the waters and we've got the radiation in the sky. Okay, excuse me, Gaz, can you go to a song, please? I've got to take a little break for a moment. Welcome back to Transmutations. I had to take a little step outside for a moment. There was a bit of disturbances going on in the force around here. So anyway, I'm back. I'm talking about the different elements that are going on. I don't know what you guys have seen out there. I don't know how much you are out there doing the work for yourself, or whether you're just sitting inside your little shells. For me, I'm out there every single day, daytime and nighttime, looking around my environment. I don't get much sleep. I'm interacting all the time on these different levels. I don't like what I'm seeing, okay? In every aspect, all the way around us, I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm nobody special. I'm the same as everybody else out there. I see the lights and I see the frequency coming in, and I see the damages that has been done to my vessel through other people and outside contracts that I've had nothing to do with. You know, I say I've had nothing to do with, but yes, sure enough, I do own a cell phone. I do participate in the internet. I do have a phone line. I do have a fridge. I have a freezer. I have some of the, you know, what I call my basics for this age that we're in. I know that the phone emits a certain radio frequencies, how it can manipulate us, and I make sure that I have an environment where all technology does not play a role. There is a space that is just mine, that is outside the technology. It is surrounded by plants. We need to up our environment of inhaling certain information, i.e. you put lavender, you cook, you know, you cook with bay leaves. You start using the plant life around us for what it is for. A lot of the stuff is being manipulated. The frequencies have an impact on our plant environment around us. It has an impact on our soil health. You know, there are areas that I haven't heard people talk about. The soil needs to be fed. We take so much out of our lands, and then we just put so much crap back into the lands, which in the long run is not feeding the soil. The soil is a living entity. It is not being fed, okay? We are starving it. We can use it for all these different properties. And when you put your frequency through it, it does. It stops frequency. It picks up frequency. It can communicate. It changes with frequency. We are also the same as it. So how many of you have gone out there and covered yourself in mud? You've only done it since when you were a child. You know, we think about the things that we don't do today that we did when we were a child. You know, I make sure that I still play. I'll go out there and I'll get on a seesaw, and if I fall off, wow, it's going to look bloomin' hilarious, isn't it? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get on that swing, and I'm going to have that swing. It changes and it repairs different areas of our minds and our bodies. We've got to build up the chemicals that we haven't used for such a long time. As a kid, we were running around and playing. You look at kids today, they do not have the same freedoms that we had when we were growing up. All right, look at what they've got. They're bombarded with technologies. They are going to get sicker faster. They are going to be more susceptible faster to the stuff that they're using, because they're using it constantly. We're going to feel it, yeah, sure enough, and we're going to have just as bad effects, but it's going to get younger and younger and younger, because as it goes through their generation, their little kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids, or whatever you want to call them, the future people are getting weaker. They're losing the connections to the earth. They're losing connections to the water communication and the trees. Everything is about concrete and boxes. Boxes are not the true form. We're meant to be in domes. We're meant to be in, thermal mass is what we can produce, and it is a lot healthier energy for us instead of the dirty electricity that's flowing around us all the time. We haven't experienced it yet, but we're going to start experiencing some really major lightning storms because of the pollutions and what they're trying to do out there around us. You know, how many of you guys have seen double and triple rainbows? Where is the explanation for a double rainbow? I have not seen a proper scientific explanation for seeing a double rainbow. Alright, everything has holes in it as far as I can see. But then to go out there one day and see a triple rainbow, that's another thing. I have videos and other footage photographs of white rainbows. It's just, seriously, it is just a white rainbow across the top of the house, and if you look closely, it comes right down. It looks like a dome around the house. But I have to call it my white rainbow because I've also seen it in different locations. I've seen what I used to call my invisible towers because nobody else could see them. They were like great pillars going straight up, like massive as buildings, and really close together in front of me, and they were able to move around. They weren't fixed in one location. They were able to move around. So the 3D environment that I could see was actually had these pillars moving right through this 3D, and it's honestly, it makes the brain go crazy. It really does, because when you're able to see it, and you clearly see it, and the more you focus on it, the more you see in it. I do have to divide myself into seeing what the actual environment that it is in, and what it is doing to that environment, how it is making the people around them react. Now, I say the invisible is just that. It's just invisible. It doesn't mean it's not there. There's a lot of craziness that's happening around us. You know, I see the manipulation from the silent warfare side of it. The manipulation of frequency with devices like vehicles, motorcycles, vehicles. You know, people have got, what is it, GC... What is it? I forgot what it is. The devices, the geographical devices that can take you from A to B. How many of these devices have failed and people have driven into rivers and crazy stuff like that? They have, so, you know, if you surround yourself by a type of frequency constantly, you are going to literally fry yourself. We are in a microwaving environment. I'm looking at my environment right now. We've got 5 or 6 cell towers around the hilltops. I'm in a gully. I'm in a place called, it's Waitomo, which means water hole, sinkhole, you know. So if we get a massive flood of water that comes through here, this whole area is going to fill up. An old friend of mine, long gone now, used to call us the fishbowl, because of the shape of it. Now I'm looking at the fishbowl, and I'm looking at the population that has grown here. The side effects, we've got all the elderly people that have lived here for 80 years are all of a sudden, within 6-month time frame, just dropping off. That's it. They've decided that's it. They're going. For one cause or another, there's just like dut, 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 dut. And then you've got the next generation who you can see are already developing and already have the complications that the elder lot are just going from now. You know, we can see some of the freak accidents that are taking place. You know, we have road workers working on the side of the road minding their own business when they get women pushed off the cliff, off the side of the road, by their own workman because he's busy concentrating with his headphones and listening to something on a device, not even noticing that, you know, the fluoro jackets that are standing right in front of him. So we're seeing these little things that are taking place. It's like brain fog is coming in again. But this time, we're going to be able to recognize, I'm saying this because I know that we're all capable of recognizing the information as it comes in. It's just a matter of being reminded or reminding ourselves that we've got work to do, that we can't just be, you know, you can go and lay down on the couch after a hard day's work, labour-wise, and go, okay, I'm going to switch off now and relax. But you're not. You're not switching off. You're being bombarded with all this information. So when you go to bed, you've got another job that you're doing when you've gone to go lie down and have some rest. You're not going to get any rest. You're going to get up and you're going to follow that pattern. Now we have an alarm that goes off it's at the fire station every time there is a fire accident, whatever, an ambulance is needed, okay? It goes off. It also goes off at 5 o'clock every day on the dot. Oh, sorry, Monday to Friday on the dot, 5 o'clock. I grew up in a location where another village was like this, but for me it had a different meaning. It was like I lived in a level of home invasion where I was always watching the clock, not for the excitement that my dad was coming home, more of trepidation. Oh no, my father's coming home. We never knew what we were going to expect. We never knew what was coming through that door. It was never the same. The smile was there, but the mind wasn't. The mind was controlled by something else. And just to let you know, it still is out there somewhere, and it will be found. So, moving back onto it, okay, there's a couple of things that I've been working on. Okay, listeners frequently miss any emotional dimensions of a conversation. There is a tendency to revert attention on content. If any reflecting is done, the focus is more on the facts rather than the feeling. So you've got to question every answer, everything that comes in. It doesn't matter how small it may seem. If you turn around and you take a photo and you get an orb in your photo, which direction is it going? If you've taken a photo, how many times does that one orb show up in that light, in that one photo? Because I've caught up to 7 movements in one frame, and that shows me the speed and the urgency in the work that this being is doing, if it's a being itself. I have seen other things move just as fast, so in doing that, I've been able to communicate with some of these beings. If you can get them to slow down enough, if you turn around and say you want to communicate with these orbs, they will communicate with you. But you've got to also be careful, because anything out there, for me, I'm not going to turn around and tell you all orbs are good. I'm not going to say that. I don't know that. But I will tell you that I have had encounters where the orbs have shown me when there are bad presences around me in a protection sort of form. I knew I could have gotten into some really big trouble at one stage, and I believed for a long time that it was the spirit of somebody coming in to protect me, so that avoid me from having to go through that. But in actual fact, it was an orb giving me warning that there is something ahead, and that if I don't pay attention to it right now, then the consequences are going to be devastating. So, and it just basically showed itself in my van reacting, the speedometer reacting in a way that it's never reacted before. The needle was bouncing back and forth, and there was no real reason for it. I pulled over for 10 minutes, and in doing so, went through the vehicle, had a look at the wires, made sure everything was all good, and carried on my way. And I never had any more problems with it. And I had to actually go past the location where, when I was going along the motorway, basically there were 2 or 3 white vehicles with tinted windows, microphone technology on the top, dishes on the top with cameras. There were police on motorbikes on both sides of the motorway. We have a concrete wall in the middle of the motorway, but it was both sides. And I'm in an unregistered, unwarranted vehicle. I know that's really naughty. Driving with passengers that weren't belted in at the back, and we were on our way to a funeral. So you can see how I got the spiritual side of it. When I got back home and I took a photo, I found an orb sitting in my car, in my vehicle, my van. So that just showed me right there and then where it had come from and what it was actually about. Later on, there's another side to that showed itself. So that it definitely showed me it was orb presence, not as spiritual as in a body who has passed over. For me, when it comes down to the orbs, I can't say yes or no that they are our loved ones who have passed over. But in some incidences, I can say that the familiarity of the orb in my present makes me feel like a certain person that I used to know or had an acquaintance with, or even an animal acquaintance, it was just right there with me. So I have had those sensations, but I can't tell you point blank, but yes or no, that was that being or it wasn't. They didn't show me enough detail. I didn't ask enough questions. But I do know the one that lives with me does tend to give me some sort of pattern or design in when they're communicating. All right, sorry, I just got distracted. So anyway, as we are coming closer to the end of the show with all the interferences I've had, and I apologise for that, do ask me some questions. I will go and see if there are any questions available, and otherwise I will just keep going as I do. You know how it is. All right, so with some of these orbs, they have shown me, at one stage when I was being bombarded with all the frequencies, I went for a walk and I was able to look over the place where I lived and the alignment that it was on. And I could only but turn around and say I had to be on some form of ley line with all the activity that took place at that particular address. It is a bit different here. I seem to have had a little bit of a breather, but I've been on another path since I've been down here. All this other stuff is still around me, it's still happening, but it's not to the extent that it once was. I'm able to control my outcome a little bit easier than I used to because I'm able to recognize what I had experienced previously. So with what's coming, I'm seeing the orbs coming back in force, and I'm also seeing manifestations of beings amongst other people. There's so much that's going on. I put it out there the other day that I wanted to move to the country, not country, rural country, where there was nobody about. And sure enough, I got a phone call yesterday and I've been offered a little place. It's 4-bedroom. I only want a 1-bedroom, but it's 4-bedroom and it's in the bush. It's away from the world, so to speak. There are no houses nearby and I'm totally loving the idea. But at the same time, I'm working with the notions that, okay, what else is around me? Why am I being directed to this environment? I just put it out there and suddenly it's right there on offer for me. So I'm cautious, but at the same time, I'm also wanting to step through all the doors that are being opened up in front of me because there is a lot of information that is coming through from a lot of different angles right now, and it's for us to learn. It's for us to remember. I'm personally on the journey of maintaining myself, my wellness, my planet, my environment. Who is that? What is that? How does that work and operate? What is it that everybody else around me is doing to oppose that free will information that I have? I'm building my strengths in areas that I was very weak in at once because of the programming that they had put out there upon me. I'm working with people that were at a stage that I once was. I almost gave up on them because they were so all over the place. But I see that when people turn around and start getting these different, the different reactions of speed, of outcome, they want to get their word put out there across, they want to be heard. They want to know that what they've experienced is real. In some people, they don't know anything about it until, boom, something triggers them. And all this information comes flooding back, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know where to turn. Our body has a way of making sure that it releases certain darkened information when it knows that we are ready to be able to deal with it. Now, whether it's our body, whether it's our mind, whether it's a higher self, or somebody else interjecting and making it happen, I'm not 100% sure on. But I know how it works for me. If I get something in my face, I know I have to deal with it. If it's a whisper, I know I have to deal with it. I have to look at it. All right. Okay, what have I got here? Can we eradicate tapeworm via natural process? If they are able to use frequency to attack us, to make us ill, and we know we can use frequency to heal ourselves and the environment, we can see that plants and animals react to frequency in a positive and negative way, then we can also take out, though we can also eradicate different frequency signatures that create and cause harm to us. But we have to remember there has to be a balance. We have to keep a balance. Just because they're throwing all this stuff at us, we cannot go out there and eliminate it completely, because it's just going to put us on a different kilter. We need to keep that balance. All right, another one. Yes, they use frequency to break up kidney stones, but also a kidney stone, why does a kidney stone develop in the first place? What is it that you're drinking? How is your body producing these stones? I've had kidney stones, and they are absolute torture. I didn't have frequency, and I wasn't able to get to a hospital. So what did I do? I had to drink a lot of water. Then I started putting in lemon into my water. Then after that came the apple cider vinegar and water on an increase every day for the rest of my life. Because I found that it was quite a good cure for a lot of things and not just kidney stones. So breaking down, learning where and how stuff is produced in our bodies, we are able to become our own healers. We heal ourselves. We have the material, we have the information. Okay, why? Okay, then why? Then why tapeworm, not metalworm? I don't know what a metalworm is. I'm sorry about that, but I know what a Morgellon worm is and looks like, what they look like, because I have seen them. I pulled them out of a hand, and they come in different colours, and they are very scary little things. When you see something wiggling around like that inside of your hand, you really don't want to be having it in your body. It does freak you out. The early stages, it comes out like lumps underneath your skin, and it burns, and it's itchy as anything. You start trying different chemicals on it and stuff, but it's too deep under the skin for it to actually penetrate it. Then you start realizing that what you're doing, you're actually feeding it. So depending on where you're located, if frequency can create an issue, then frequency can undo that as well. But you've got to know the frequencies. You know, there are a lot of people saying don't play with frequency because it can kill you. Yes, it can kill you. So you'll learn from the early basics. Now, I, for one, I cannot read music. I cannot play music. Give me a drum. Give me a set of teaspoons. Give me give me the earth. I'm a dancer, not a player of music. But I can read music as of how it's affecting other people around me. When I can see it coming in waves, different waves, different megahertz of waves coming in. And when I can see that, I can see the barrier and how I need to adapt to the wave that's coming in. If you look up at a chemtrail and you see there's a certain ripple effect to that chemtrail, go and have a look at some of the different sonic wave patterns that are out there and break it down. It will show you the colors that it responds to, the manipulation that it's actually doing. If it's up there and it's rippling, we're going to get that ripple effect down here. It's like we're like an ice cream cone. If you can imagine, we're at the bottom because we're on solid form, and as soon as that frequency hits our solid form, then it's going to change. The clouds are getting lower and lower. They are pushing the frequency harder and faster to the earth by moving the cloud lower and lower. So anyway, in saying that, I would like to wish everybody, good health and well-being, and be safe out there on those journeys. I'll be back again this time next week for another update of Transmutations. Thank you for being there. We're all on this journey together, and do the best that you can, because there isn't any other way. There isn't any other way. Remember that You're in this amazing vessel, and there's so many things that you've already shared with this vessel. Now it's time to start looking and taking care of it while we still can. We haven't run out of time. We are going to move on to another species at some stage, but if we can remember what we've got right now, then it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier when the transition comes. So in saying that, be well everyone, safe journeys, and I'll see you next week. Thank you everybody for coming in. You can find us at peopleforpeopleradio.ming.com, and I love your questions. Keep them coming in.